Hello, and welcome to the Early Childhood Innovation Data Collection webinar. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear. So if you could just type a little yes into the question box and let me know, that'd be great. Oh, great, good. I'm getting some yeses. Wonderful. All right. So we appreciate your time as we share important information on our last round of data collection for the Innovation Zones. My name is Renee Tetrick. I'm the Program Innovation Analyst at Illinois Action for Children, and we also have Agnes Marcos here joining us for the webinar. We're glad to have you all here today, and I just want to go over some webinar tips. So if you're calling in by phone, go ahead and mute yourself. And go ahead and mute yourself if you're on your computer as well. We can go ahead and unmute you if you have a question that you want to ask aloud. You're welcome to stop us at any point. So if you want to raise your hand or type into the question box, we're happy to pause at any point to answer those questions. So use that question box and let us know what questions that you have. If you have any technical issues, go ahead and email Agnes, and we'll try and get that sorted out for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So as a part of our webinar today, we're going to give an overview of Innovation Zone evaluation plans. And we're going to discuss our various roles and responsibility in data collection, and then we're going to review the data collection forms and process. During this section, we'll be sure to pause throughout to give you time to ask questions and look at those forms. And then finally, we'll discuss some tips and strategies for successful data collection and submission. All right. So as you know, the two main outcomes that we're measuring with Innovation Zones are the number of children 0 to 5 from priority populations enrolled in partner early childhood education programs, and also the number of centers with Accelerate Circles of Quality. Why are we measuring these fields? Great question. There's a few reasons for this. One, it's aspirational. It keeps us focused on our big goals. It also helps us to be data informed. It helps us to adapt and improve. Also, sharing data within and across our systems is really at the heart of collective impact. It helps us to create a shared agenda, shared measures, and shared goals to help us align our work and move to real systems change. This data also helps to keep each other aligned and accountable in the process of small experimental learning cycles. Data also gives us the potential for storytelling and the ability to share our stories about why we do this work and why it's important to children and families. The data is also collectible across most of our programs, and the data fields allow us to track information to report back. And the data fields are consistent. However, we know that there are some limitations. We know that data doesn't always tell the full story or paint the whole picture, and that not every partner can share this data. And that child care centers in particular have a harder time with different and more challenging data systems. And that it doesn't always demonstrate our system connections and all the various gains and improvements that we're making. But we're here to say that that's okay. Your data efforts are not a commentary on your work. We know that you're working really, really hard, and again, that the data doesn't tell the whole picture, but it will give us a piece of the puzzle and a piece of information for that story. Data is a developmental tool to really help you see, plan, and improve, so to use that build, measure, learn cycle. So I want to take some time just to talk about our different roles in collecting and submitting data. First, for our data champions, so those of you on our call, thank you, first of all, for being a data champion within your Innovation Zone. Your role is to identify and develop relationships with your participating early learning partners, which you've already done a great job of. Next is to distribute the instructions and forms to your partners. It's also to be a champion of the data collection experience and be a steward of data collection. Another part of your role is to send those regular reminders. We know that's really helpful to our partners. And it's to collect those forms, and we'll go over those due dates, to review the forms, and then to submit those materials back to Illinois Action for Children. So it's a fun role, and we hope that you'll find it fun too, and we're here to support you throughout that process. So what will Illinois Action for Children be doing? Well, we'll be here to help clean that data for analysis. We'll be cleaning that data, entering that data, kind of working with you to understand the data, and then we'll also create some simple reports as we've done in the past. We'll also share that data with our evaluation team. So IERC is working closely with us. They're actually in the process of looking at the data that's already been submitted, and we'll continue to do so. And we're also planning to make some recommendations to the state on how to improve the local data collection process. So we're actually in the process of writing a memo right now on how to improve our data system. So we're always excited and interested to hear your ideas on how to improve our state systems around data. So here are some of the tools that we'll be using for data collection. We're going to go over the sample intake form. So this is not a mandatory tool. This is something just to help you in the process. So we'll look at that. We'll also look at the program enrollment form, HN17, and then the Part A form too. So we'll go over the differences of those, and keep in mind that your program partners can pick between either form. So we'll talk more about that. And then there's the quality improvement form, the Q17 form. And then we have some Word document tracking sheets that you'll submit with your data. All right, so first is the sample intake form. So this is a great tool to share with your early childhood programs, your partners. And perhaps some programs are already using a similar form to this. It's really just a tool to help in collecting data if they don't use something like this already. It's something that can be given at intake with a new child in their program to collect some of that important data around priority populations. So again, this is not a mandatory tool, just something that could be helpful to you and to your partners. And you'll see that we've tried to align it as best with the preschool expansion eligibility form as well. So it mirrors that pretty closely. All right. So first I wanted to start with the HN17 Part A form. So this form allows you to report program totals or program summaries. I want to start with this form because this is the easier of the two enrollment forms. And we strongly encourage you, if your partners are able to use this form, to use this form. So if one of your partners has a data system or an easy way to report data, really what they can do is print out that data report and the necessary fields and then just transfer it over to this form. So this is a way for programs that already have a data system that can easily report that information and just transfer that data over. So let's take a look at this. You'll see the top part tells you a little bit about the form, who gets the form. So it's the participating early childhood programs in your innovation zone. So, and I just want to reference the tracking sheet that you received tells you who has submitted data in the past and who you should be collecting from this data cycle. What's the purpose of this form? It's to collect total enrollment in programs and the enrollment of children from priority populations. Each Innovation Zone data champion's name and email and phone is listed on the form, so programs can turn that back into you. You would review that form and then send it on to us. Keep in mind that we're looking at a point in time or a snapshot date for the data on October 15th. So October 15th is when we're pulling the data from. And that's to be submitted to you by November 14th. And then you'll be turning that into us on November the 18th. So we'll go over those dates again. But the idea is that will give you a few days to look at those forms, review them, fill in any needed information, and then send them on to us. So we'll walk through the directions by looking more closely at the form. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So you'll see maybe I'll use my arrow here. So this top section is just the contact information. So you'll see the forms that you got, your innovation zones already populated in there. This is an older form too. So, but yours will say 17, and for fall 2016. So you'll see, you'll just include the contact information at the top, what type of program they would include here. And really the contact is so we can follow up if we have any questions there. The program will list all the zip codes of the enrolled children in their program. They'll include the total enrollment for each of those zip codes listed here, and then they'll total that right here. And then they'll include totals in each of these boxes here. So these are all your priority populations, teen parent, homeless, and so on. And if a child does not meet any of those priority populations, they would just mark none or don't know here. And then you'll see a spot for referral sources, these purple boxes right here, and they total across there as well. And then you see these blue boxes are for total enrollment and then total priority population enrollment. You'll notice here that the forms are available in PDF and Excel, so it's really whatever works for the program. We definitely encourage programs to use Excel if they have that option and feel comfortable with it, because that allows the program to just type in the information and then it will populate, it will calculate those totals for you right there. It makes it really easy, really simple. And we're always here to help with that. And then you'll see this blue section is just to list those other ways in which the family heard about the program. So you'll see here and other on the purple, they're calculating, just giving a total, and then down here they can list those other ways. All right, and I just want to show, this is the back page of the instruction sheet, that cover sheet. And this just tells you a little bit about a little more about those priority population terms and definitions. So if you're wondering what it means to be a teen parent or to be experiencing homelessness, this gives the definitions here to provide some clarity. So that's a great thing to point out to your program. All right, so we went through, this is just a closer look, so you can see Pilsen Little Village, they've been populated into this form. Program name, contact information, email, and then the program type, and you can check all that applies there. And here's a closer look at that form again. All right, I just wanted to pause there and see if you have any questions about this first form, and I'll go back to take a look at that. Let's just take a pause for a second. Any questions about HN17 Part A? And feel free to raise your hand, and we can unmute you or type into that question box. So far, so good. Great. All right. I don't see any questions yet, so we'll keep moving forward, but feel free to type in, raise your hand, and maybe once we go through the second form, we'll have some more questions come up, so just let us know. All right. So the next form is our high needs enrollment form. This is the other form, the HN17 form. I always like to make the joke that we call it HN17 because it's high needs in the fiscal year 17, and that it sounds like a virus, which we know, but that's why we call it that. And this form here, this is more for a program that doesn't have a data system, a reporting system, isn't able to generate a report. And this allows the program to write in individual children, not their names. You do it by a child ID number, which we'll look at. But it allows the program then to fill in each child and then have a way to calculate. So let's take a closer look at this. You'll see the information about this form is pretty much the same there. So same Same information on where to send that data and when to send it. And also available in PDF and Excel for you. And then you'll see the top part's the same. You're putting in program information, contact information. They're going to check off the type of program. And then the headings here are basically the same. So, but instead of just including the zip code, they'd put a child ID number. And that can be already assigned child ID number that they have, or it can just be the program numbering, creating their own ID system. And that's just because we don't want the child's name. We want to keep that information confidential, and we are sensitive to that. And so just make sure you use a number when reporting on this form. You'd include the zip code of that child, and then here you're just marking 1. So rather than the other form, you're putting in totals, and here you're putting 1s. You're putting the number 1. So if the child is experiencing homelessness and also living in deep poverty, you check 1 and then 1 here. And then let's say the next row here you have another child and they don't fall into any category, you put a 1 here and none or don't know. And then for this section here, this purple section, again, that's those referral sources, and you'd just be checking off all the different ways that that one child heard about the program. All right. Here's a little bit closer look, and you'll see this is the second page of the form, and this includes the totals. So you'll see these light blue boxes again. This allows you to add up the column totals, the total enrollment here, and then the total priority population enrollment. And so there's instructions on that cover sheet on how to add those up, but also, again, if you're using Excel, it will populate and calculate those totals for you. All right, and there's the totaling a little bit closer up so you can see those boxes. But again, you can put those numbers right in and it will calculate for you and give you those total enrollment and priority population enrollment. And one thing for the data champion will be to check those totals. So when you get these forms back, it will be helpful for you to kind of check to make sure those numbers make sense and are clear and accurate. And we can certainly help if you have any questions on the totaling process. All right, so here's an example of Excel. So as you enter numbers into each of these fields, it's going to calculate right here for you. So that just gives a really easy way for programs to total up that information. Okay, so let's pause. Any questions about HN17? Any questions about this form or sort of the differences in the forms? So should a center, here's a question here. So should a center that has a few programs do a separate report for each program? That's a good question. So this is coming from Nancy. So Nancy, I think I know what you're asking here is, I think one of your centers, maybe it's the Children's Center, has several different sites, right? And you're wondering if they should report by individual sites or overall. What I would suggest is to have them report in the same way that they've been reporting. So you'll see on the tracking sheet, they've reported by site. So by site allows you to look across the different years and see by site how it's changed, and then we can always add it up by the overall program. So I would just encourage your partners to submit the data in the way that they've submitted in the past. And the way that you'll know that is from the tracking sheet. So the tracking sheet will list the program, and then if it's submitted by site, it will list that site name. Does that make sense? We can definitely work with you on that if you have any questions about your tracking sheet or how they should be submitting. So here's a question. What if the data collector doesn't fit into any of the choices in the program type section, for example, community-based org? That's a good question. I might just encourage them to write that in.
So we're measuring for early learning programs. So if they're a community-based organization that is serving children, they may have a funding stream. So I guess it would be the box that most closely aligns with the funding stream that's supporting payment of those children. Now, if it's a private pay center, then I guess that would be an other. or child care center. But maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this community-based organization, and that might help us out to be able to answer your question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Feel free if there's one that you have in mind that we can talk about, offline or on the phone too. We can always try and steer you towards the right box there, find a way to collect that accurately. Good question. See what else we have here. All right, good questions, everybody. Keep them coming. But I am going to turn it to Agnes now, who's going to tell us a few tips about these enrollment forms.
Hi everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. So just a couple tips that applies to both forms HN17 and HN17 Part A. So it's really helpful to go ahead and ungroup any of the zip codes that fall in the zip code column. So sometimes a provider may not know exactly which zip code the child falls under. So if you're not sure about a zip code, go ahead and just enter it as 9999 or leave it blank. But I would like to stress ungrouping any zip codes that do happen to fall grouped together. So you can go ahead and follow up with that provider again and see where that child resides. And another helpful tip is go ahead and make sure that the total enrollment and total priority population numbers are in the boxes. So for HN17 Part A, it will just go ahead and add up those group zip codes. But for HN17, you will have to go to the bottom of the columns and add those in and include those totals in those boxes. So just make sure that those boxes do have the totals for the enrollment and priority population in there.
And I just want to stress this again because this is really important. Your program partners can use either form. So either the purple form or the pinkish form, they get to choose. And we set it up this way because different programs have the ability to report information in different ways. So we got some feedback that programs needed a way to include every child, and then other programs were able to pull a report easily and wanted a way to just submit that information. Really what we're interested in are those blue boxes. So those light blue boxes on either form is what we're interested in. Those sort of column totals, total enrollment information, and the total priority population. So again, early childhood programs can choose between either form. So form HN17, remember that's the purple form where they enter individual child entries and then they can total it up. Or the Part A form, which is really for a program summary, program totals, really good for a program that is able to easily generate a report. And again, those forms are available in PDF and Excel, so whatever is more comfortable to your partners. All right. And then we've also received a few questions from Innovation Zones about tracking their own strategies for intake, referral, and enrollment. Yes, yes, yes. We think that's fantastic. We strongly encourage Innovation Zones to track and document their own strategies, learning, process, data. And here's one way you might look at that. This is a tracking tool that's been created for Innovation Zone's own intake and referral system. So it's a way to kind of track your outreach and the referrals that you make so that you can see how referrals lead to an enrollment. So this is on the Google Drive, and it's something that you can adapt. I know a few programs have adapted this form before to fit their needs, to kind of see their own referral process. And I think Pipedrive is a new way that programs are using that too. So we can talk to you more about Pipedrive and how you might track some referrals in different ways that might be useful to you. All right, so we have another form for quality improvements. So this form is for those working on quality as a part of their work plan. So that would include Aurora, Greater East St. Louis, Thornton Township, Williamson County, and now Elgin too has been using this form this last cycle. So let's take a quick look. Well, I have one question over here, so let me just pause before I go through. Do you recommend using the outreach tool in addition to Pipedrive? Yeah, so we would say Pipedrive is great. So if you're using Pipedrive already and you find it useful and wonderful, continue that way. The outreach tracking tool is kind of something we created before Pipedrive.
Yeah, and it's basically from the outreach tracking tool that we learned, like using that as a prototype, that Pipedrive is kind of our next version 2.0.
It sounds like that's been a useful tool, so that's great. All right, so here's the Accelerate Program Quality Form Q17. So this form is actually filled out by the Innovation Zone champion, or whether that's the lead or coordinator or the assigned champion. So this is filled out by the champion. So rather than this going to the program partner, we found that it actually becomes even easier for the champion just to kind of call up those programs. We've seen champions before call up each individual program, kind of ask them questions about the form, and fill it in for them, and becomes really easy. You can even use the Excel sheet. You can create a new tab, and we can show you how to do that if that would be useful. And this form just comes directly back to me. So you'd be filling it out, checking it, turning it back into me, to Renee, and that would be for quality ratings through October 15th, or on October 15th, and that would be submitted back on November 18th. When all the forms are due to us. So here are the instructions here, and we'll just walk through the form. And this again is available in PDF and Excel. All right. So here is the first page of the form. You'll see again a space to include contact information, phone number, email. That's helpful for follow-up for us. You'll see Table A here, Part A. You're recording the current quality status. So you're just checking one box here, the current quality status of the program. And then the quality target, sort of what they're working on, what their aim is. And again, you check one here. If there's no new target, there's an option for that as well. Here you're recording quality progress. So if your program is preparing, you check preparing, and you check all these boxes that they have completed so far. All right, and then if your program is working towards silver, gold, or award of excellence, you would move on here to page 2. And this just helps to track further the steps in the process. And this last page is just for comments. We found that it's helpful to provide this space if there's any comments about the process or the information or the data that they're submitting. So that's just an optional comment section. I'm going to have Agnes share a few tips on the data collection for the quality form.
So if the program is submitting again and maybe their status has not changed, it's helpful to go ahead and check one of those boxes, and I kindly ask that only one box is checked because as you can see here, not starting, preparing, not applicable indicate very different things in the progress towards quality of the program. So go ahead and just make sure that only one of those boxes are checked so we can track their progress accurately. And so further down on the form, you see that there are more specific items. So if the program is preparing, go ahead and check how they're preparing or how they are progressing forward. This is helpful to see how the programs are moving forward towards their circles and change over time in their progress.
All right, let's take a little pause here. Any questions about the quality data form? You guys have great questions. I think you guys are experts in the quality form. I don't see any questions here, but feel free to reach out with those questions. All Okay. So one thing we really want to stress and emphasize here is that matching matters. So you see our apples to apples. We want to make sure that we can compare things apples to apples. So consistent reporting by your programs and your partners allows us for year-over-year comparisons. It allows us to kind of track things over time, to understand the changes, understand improvements. It really helps us to tell a clearer story if we have programs reporting from cycle to cycle, year to year. So if a program reported last cycle and the cycle before, our goal would be to collect from them again. So a good way to look at that is through the tracking sheet. I'm going to have Agnes tell us a little bit about this.
So this is the tracking sheet that is also with your enrollment and quality form. So as you can see here, the program name is in the furthest left column. And then you can track if they had submitted their data for previous data collection cycles. So go ahead and just put a check if they have submitted. You can put a no if they have not submitted in the previous data collection cycle or the current one. So this is helpful to see who is reporting consistently through the data collection cycles. And just a couple of helpful tips is making sure that the program name matches the program name on the form. Additionally, what the program name is saved under. So when you're saving this file and submitting it to Renee or myself, that the file saved is also matching with the name on the program sheet as well as the name on the program tracking sheet. If you have any questions about that, feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat box. But it is great to have some consistency in the naming so we can make sure that we're cleaning the data accurately as well when we're going to clean it up for everyone.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that this is really a tool for you. It's really a tool to help you kind of track who's turning in data to you and for you to see. So who do I need to collect data from this time? These are all the programs that submitted last time. This is who I want to collect from again. It helps you to see if they should be how they should be submitting, so kind of how Nancy brought up, if a program has multiple sites and you see, oh, each site submitted a form, let's collect it back in the same way. So that can give you some good tips and hints on how to get that data back. And yeah, just stressing again that program name, keeping that name consistent is really helpful for us. On the file name, on the form itself, and then keeping it the same here. So when you turn it back in, just making sure that name stays the same. And if there's some reason that it has to change, just make sure to tell us and let us know the reason for that. Perhaps in the notes column, if the program changed its name and took on a new owner, that would kind of be the reason for that. But otherwise, let's keep those the same. And then just also wanted to say, again, this notes column, that's kind of for you to share anything about the data. So you see here, program D, they submitted this first cycle, they didn't submit these other cycles, and that's because the program closed. And you can tell us the program closed in fall of 2015 or whenever that may be. So that can give us some information about why that program's not turning data in. Any questions on the tracking sheet? Great. So this is one you can keep handy as you begin to collect data back from your program, and you turn this in with the data by November 18th. So let's go ahead and just look at some key dates for data collection. So that priority population enrollment form, remember that's either form, so the HN17 or HN17 Part A. That form is completed by the early childhood program itself, so they complete that form, and they're taking a snapshot of enrollment, so they're pulling data from the date of October 15th, and they're going to submit it to you by November 14th, so that's the date on the cover sheet. That's the instructions you'll give to them to turn it into you by November 14th, so that gives them a month to pull that data and submit the data. And then you'd have a few days there to review that data, make sure it's clear, accurate, all the fields are filled out, and you'd submit that to Action for Children by November 18th. The quality form, that's filled out by the Innovation Zone champion that's assigned to that zone, and that's going to be quality as of October 15th, and then again due on November 18th. And with your forms, you'll be submitting that Word document tracking sheet. All right. So how should we plan to do this? One way that programs can do this is by first pulling data on priority populations from their own data system. So whether that's from SIS or COPA, or from their own intake tracking sheets or enrollment forms in their files. So there's two options for submitting data. And that's by emailing it to me, to Renee, or mailing it. And you can always call for questions. You can put me on your speed dial, and we'll be there to help you. All right, we have some tools to support you.
So one of the tools that is going to be in your toolbox is a document containing talking points and a script. So this is great to bring to any data meetings. It's going to make it easier. You can just refer to it if you have any questions. And you also have a step-by-step guide. So this contains step 1 through however many steps, and it'll help you expedite the process, kind of making sure all your ducks are in a row. It also contains sample emails and messages to your partners, and it also creates a friendly timeline to go ahead and send some reminders to some of your partners. We also have a FAQ. So this is another great tool to bring to one of your data meetings. So it's going to have any detailed descriptions about the forms, any definitions, and about the process. So this is also really helpful to bring to your data meeting again. And then we also have reminder emails that Renee will send out, and you can go ahead and just forward those to your partners. We had a lot of success with this during our last data collection cycle. We heard great feedback that it really helped remind the partners to be submitting and collecting their data. So those are a couple tools, and if you have any other suggestions or any other tools that you think would help in your data collection process, feel free to reach out to Renee or myself, and we're happy to help create a tool that would make it easier for you.
So some other tips and strategies for data collection. One is building those relationships around data collection. We know that it takes time and a lot of patience, and continuing to build those relationships, foster those relationships will help in bringing that data in. And allow your partners in your community to share and learn from each other about their data and with their data to help improve the process. Share tips and strategies together even at your collaboration meetings. It's also helpful, we know some champions have visited sites to talk about data collection, to kind of set expectations, to clarify questions, to kind of alleviate any concerns, and to just make it a little bit more fun and help them along in the process. You can also make phone calls. We know that some champions have done sort of follow-up phone calls just as reminders. Sending those emails again has been really helpful. And offer the site that we can come and help them. So if you have a program that's having a little trouble or needs a little assistance or anything, we can come out and support them. Also offer to share results. So you've seen the PowerPoint slides that have come out with charts and graphs. So that's one way that can be really motivating to see the changes within their own programs and other programs. So seeing that data can be really, really helpful. And we just say, you know, try not to pressure your sites, but we do want you to be persistent, professional, bring your smile and your energy, and support them in that process. And you might need to make multiple contacts or try different ways. We know sometimes some people prefer a visit, others prefer a phone call, some might just need a little reminder. So you might need to differentiate your approach depending on that partner and what you know about their partner and their needs. All right, so what we get out of this. So each year, when the Innovation Zone submits data, we're going to offer gift cards. So we did this last time, some gift card bonuses. So we're going to do the same thing of $100, and we're planning to do the gift cards from Lakeshore Learning. And we'll reach out to you after this webinar to talk a little bit about that. But that would be for you to distribute to your partners, to incentivize them, to provide a raffle, a drawing, just prizes for completing timely and accurate data. And then, of course, you'll receive your customized report of the results. You get a spreadsheet and the PowerPoint slides once the data is submitted and cleaned and entered on our end. All right, and how will the community benefit from this? So one way is by making contact with other partners and strengthening their relationships with you and with each other. Also, data sharing strengthens our community systems and our collective impact. Participation also boosts our capacity to do local evaluation of our processes and to share with our cross-sector partners and our funders. And timely data will allow you faster returns on your campaigns. So using that sort of continuous learning process, our build, measure, and learn process. Okay, quick checklist for success for you. So just make sure that you're completing, matching all the fields. Be sure to delete any child information, so we just want those child numbers. Report those programs and site names consistently from year to year. So remember, use that tracking sheet to know who you're getting data from and how the name should be reported. Keep in mind the date of data collection. So remember, it's a snapshot on October 15th, and then that data is due back to you a month later on November 14th. And just to be sure to check the contact name and number and email on those forms, because that really helps us to follow up if we need to. Great. Some frequently asked questions. So what's the deadline? So I think you guys have this down, but it's November 18th to us. And we suggest the program submit to you by the 14th to give you time to review, follow up, and submit those forms. What if partners do not submit data? So we just really encourage you to try and be persistent and just see what you can do. And we learn from all that information too. So just please make note of that in your data, the efforts that you've made, and kind of the responses that you get, because that really helps us to understand. And we'll be able to include some of those learnings in our data memo. What if I reach out and no one responds? We might just suggest you try a different method of communication. So we know sometimes people like phone calls or face-to-face, a site visit, a one-on-one. Just try and make it easy, convenient for them, and just kind of meet them where they are. Let them know that those aggregate numbers are okay, so if they can pull their own report and they can just transfer that data over, that's great. And if all of that is unsuccessful, then submit what you have. Just give us what you have, and we'll enter and report what you're able to get.
And I'll just add one more thing. Is it's really, as Innovation Zones, we've already been practicing kind of this going out there and experimenting and trying, and no failure, only learning. So each time that you don't get a response from something that you tried out, you can think of that as information for you, that you think of it as a data point. So that didn't work, let me try something else. Let me do a small experiment, and really look at, even in your outreach and engagement on data, that the same practice that you apply in engaging your partners and engaging families, it's the same habit or practice that you would apply for collecting your data as well. So be persistent, be optimistic, make it easy on yourself. It's always really useful to, ask your partners and say, well, what's hard about this? What would make it easier for you? Really do an inquiry with them too, so that it's not one-sided, that you're not just asking them for information, but you're learning from them what would make it easier. And then, at that point, that's sort of where you would do the troubleshooting, the same kind of troubleshooting that you do for enrollment or other types of uptake. You could do that as well. If your behavior goal is that this partner is submitting data, then you want to kind of troubleshoot, what do I need to make it easier? What kind of reminders do I need to do? How do I play around with my variables to make sure that we get to action?
All right. Another one here, from how many sites should I collect data? So we really want you to target those that have given you data in the past. So we're in our last data collection cycle, so be, again, using that tracking sheet and collecting again from those same partners, because we want that apples-to-apples comparison and just consistent reporting from those programs. Do you have tips for getting sites to share their data? One thing would be to provide the report of the work that you've done, include your most recent fact sheet, kind of share all the things that you've been working on and report that data back, and let them know how them sharing data really helps to make improvements for children in your community, programs in your community. Who to contact with questions? You can always contact me. Agnes is available as well. Reach out at any point. And here's some helpful information about data collection. If you didn't get enough today and you want to learn more, you can read this for some bedtime reading tonight. And I'm going to pause right there and see if you have any questions. All right. Will we get a final report of some kind? Yes. So we're planning to do similar to how we did last time. We're going to give you your data spreadsheet that will have all the updated totals and a PowerPoint slide as well that will give you some charts and graphs and powerful questions, kind of similar to how we did last time, but we're also open to if there's different charts you want, if you want more questions, if you want information in a different way, we're happy to work with you. So as always, we're open to your feedback and how we can improve any reporting information for you. And that will likely be, so we'll get the data November 18th, and then we'll be working furiously to enter that data, and within hopefully a month, month and a half, we'll get that data back to you. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or type into that chat box. And I do want to let you know that we have recorded the session today, so if you're dying to watch it again, or if you want to share it with another one of your co-leads or another collaboration member, please do so. We'll send that out within the next day or two as soon as we get it uploaded. And we'll share this presentation, so you'll have the slides as well. Just a reminder that all the forms are on the Google Drive, so you can always access the forms on the Google Drive, all the supporting tools, and you've also received an individual email with the forms. If there are any errors on the forms, definitely let us know, but hopefully they're ready to go and ready for you to share with your partners. I also want to offer that we are happy to do any visits to your collaboration. If you wanted us to come out and talk about the forms, check in with any programs, let us know. And we'll also be planning to follow up with you in the coming weeks and months to support you in the process and to provide those regular reminders and check-ins. So this is our last data collection cycle, which is very exciting. We want to thank you for being data champions and for all your hard work collecting data. It really does give us good information to share our story. So you're fantastic, and you're doing a great job, and keep up the great work.
And I want to give a shout out to Renee and Agnes, because there's a couple of comments that have been on here that they're being very modest about, but thank you for both of you, because I feel like as I'm watching this, they've just come so far, and they've really taken this to the next level of really being adaptive and listening to you and listening to your feedback and trying to make it easier for you. So hat tip to both of you, and then also, let them know. I think that I know that Agnes and Renee are very serious about being there for you and being present and being available to help and support anything that you need to really make this as easy as possible. So really use them as a resource. They're really fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all. I don't see any other questions coming in, but feel free to reach out by phone, email, and we're here for you. Thanks again, and we'll be sending out that recording and follow-up information soon. Have a really great afternoon, and happy Labor Day weekend.